It can only last as long as it takes to handle the reason the stop was made. Once that reason is resolved, the clock stops. Deputy Ramirez called in a drug dog, but by the time that dog arrived, Judge Corey Wiggins had one question, and the officer's own testimony would answer it.
So after you received the tip, what did you do?
We started heading to Wright's Custom Auto Body to see if we could see anything suspicious from outside. As we were driving to the location, we saw a vehicle turn off of Leeson Street onto 13th Street. Started to follow that vehicle, conducted a file check on the vehicle's fixed registration, and it showed not to have insurance.
So what did you do at that point?
We conducted a traffic stop and the vehicle pulled to the side of the road.
Were you able to determine who the registered owner of that vehicle was?
Yes, it was Mr. Pruitt.
So describe your initial contact with Mr. Pruitt.
He provided me with his driver's license. I asked him to step out of the vehicle and join me at the front of my patrol vehicle. At that point, while I was looking at his license, I asked where he and his passengers were coming from. Correct, sorry. I asked him where they were going. He said they were going to the city of Cadillac to drop his girlfriend off.
Did he make any other statements to you?
I asked him how long he had been with his girlfriend. He said 7 months.
And did you discuss anything else?
After I asked him about his girlfriend, I asked him again where they were headed to. And this time he said he was going to drop off his rear seat passenger that he also mentioned he had known for several months to Traverse City where he resided.
How many occupants were in the vehicle?
There was 3 occupants.
What did you do after that initial contact outside of the vehicle with Mr. Pruitt?
While talking to him, I conducted a file check on him, but after being done with his contact, I reapproached the vehicle and spoke to the front seat passenger
Where did you speak with her?
at the front of their vehicle.
Outside of it?
Yes,
After speaking with the front seat passenger, what did you do?
I spoke with the rear seat passenger.
Where?
I asked him to step out of the vehicle. He asked if he had to. I told him he did. Eventually, he stepped out of the vehicle and moved out at the rear of that vehicle.
Do you recognize the rear seat passenger?
I do.
Is he in the courtroom?
He is seated to the right of Mr. Pruitt.
Deputy, please describe your initial contact with Mr. Couples.
I asked him where they were headed tonight. He said they were headed to Traverse City. I asked where they're coming from. He said the city of Cadillac. When I asked how long he had known the driver, Mr. Pruitt, he said he had known him for years. When I asked how long he had known the front seat passenger, the female, he said even longer than that. During our contact, he was confrontational, recorded me.
And you said you spoke with the female passenger.
Yes,
Without telling me what she said, what type of story did you get from her?
a different story than the other female.
I'd object, Your Honor. It's still hearsay if he's describing what she said and she's not a party as a defendant.
Does that not go to the totality of the circumstances for the court to consider for the motion to suppress?
I reject.
Thank you. Sir, after your contact, that initial contact with Mr. Couples outside of the vehicle, what did you do next?
Mr. Couples got back in the vehicle. I spoke to Mr. Pruitt again. I asked him if there was any weapons in the car. He said no. I asked if there was any cocaine in the car. He again said no. I asked if there was any heroin in the car. He said no. I asked if there was any methamphetamine in the car. He said none of that. Then subsequently asked if I could search his vehicle.
Did you discuss with him anything else about the vehicle?
I had asked if he had insurance. He said he had provided it to my partner, but the proof that he provided was expired.
If I heard you wrong, I'm sorry. Did you say you asked him to search the vehicle?
I did.
And what did he say?
I don't recall exactly what he said. I know he didn't answer yes or no. So I informed him it was a yes or no answer. And he said no.
After you were denied consent to search, what did you do?
I returned my vehicle, requested Sergeant Hicks of the Cadillac Police Department to respond with his canine to conduct a rear sniff of the vehicle.
Why?
It was my belief that some sort of criminal activity was occurring, the conflicting stories that I had received and their general behavior, demeanor.
So you requested Sergeant Hicks, and then what did you do?
I started filling out the citation for Mr. Pruitt.
What happened while you were working on that?
Sergeant Hicks, right?
And about how long, if you know, did it take from the time you requested him until his arrival?
Less than 10 minutes.
Less than how long?
10 minutes,
How long does it typically take to prepare a citation?
about 10 minutes, depending on if the computer gives me in trouble.
What type of citation were you writing?
Initially, it was a no insurance ticket.
While you're still working on that, Sergeant Hicks arrived, correct?
Right.
What happened after Sergeant Hicks arrived?
Mr. Hartel?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna ask you some questions just to make sure I understand the timeline and everything. When you and your partner were originally going out to the scene, it was because, if I recall correctly, you said a silent observer tip, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then when you saw the vehicle that my client was driving, you started to follow it. That was before you had run the plate when you initially started to follow it, correct?
Are you asking if I ran the plate after we began following the vehicle?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
When you were following it, it had nothing initially to do with concern about it being road legal, any other reason other than the fact you're on that road for that tip that you had mentioned? I understand correctly, right?
Yes, we just followed the vehicle as we follow. Yeah.
When my client pulled over, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, including rephrasing it, that's fine. When you went up to the vehicle, you asked for the items and he gave you just the driver's license, right?
Correct.
And then you asked him to exit the vehicle,
Correct.
but you didn't do follow-up questions asking where is that insurance that I asked for?
No, the passenger of the vehicle was looking for that information when I asked him to step out.
And when he stepped out of the vehicle, the questions you asked him weren't insurance-related questions, were they?
They were not.
I believe you testified that you talked to the other passengers a little bit later, right?
That's correct.
And those questions also weren't insurance-related, were they?
They were not.
You mentioned, if I recall correctly, that you did end up eventually calling in for the canine.
That's correct. All right.
But you hadn't started writing the ticket before that, as far as the no insurance ticket?
I had not started before that.
All right. And if I recall correctly, you had a partner with you on scene,
I did.
and your partner also had not started writing the ticket before that?
Yeah,
You were informed by your fellow officer that the canine had indicated there were drugs, correct?
that's correct.
Did he tell you how the canine indicated?
Objection. Officer Hicks can testify that he is here.
Officer Hicks is here.
Yes. Or Sergeant.
Well, I believe it probably goes to the totality of the circumstances for the motion to suppress. I'll disregard it for the preliminary examination purpose, but for the motion to suppress, I'll allow it.
If you don't mind, officer.
I don't. He did not indicate how.
Well, that was easy then. I'm glad we got there eventually. All right, I appreciate that. And you said you were still writing the ticket because it takes you about 10 minutes to do that when the canine arrives, correct? Correct. All right. But as far as the entire initial purpose of the stop it was for the no insurance ticket, right?
That's correct.
All right. So when you were asking to search the trunk or the back of the vehicle, however you want to phrase this, that wasn't in a quest to find something insurance related either, was it?
No.
All right. I believe my co-counsel, or at least the counsel for the co-defendant may have some more questions for you. Thank you again.
I guess before I do that, Ms. Carey, do you have any redirect based on Mr. Hartel's questions?
No.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
Officer, how long you been on force?
Just over 2.5 years.
Any law enforcement experience before Westwood County?
No.
So you have 2 years of law enforcement experience, correct?
2.5.
2.5. So you're on duty this day, and you indicate at around 11 p.m., you get a silent observer tip.
Objection. That was not his testimony.
When did you get the silent observer tip?
11:50.
11:51. Did you put anywhere in your police report that you received a silent observer tip?
I did not.
Did you print out this silent observer tip
When?
at any point prior to today? Do you have it with you?
I do.
Okay, can I see it?
Please. On the table.
It does not say who made this tip, correct?
Correct.
So you would agree with me that this is a unanimous tip?
That's
Unanimous tip. Did the tip indicate how they know that there was suspected narcotics activity going on at this Wright's Custom Body Shop?
It is not.
Does the tip say whether or not they personally observed any narcotics activity occurring at this Wright's Customs Body Shop?
It is not.
Likewise, does the tip say that they purchased any narcotics from this Wright's Customs Body Shop?
It is not.
After you receive this tip at 11:51, do you actually go to Wright's Body Shop?
We were headed in that direction.
Okay. Did you ever make it there?
We did not.
Okay. Did the tip indicate any cars or traffic that was at Wright's Body Shop?
It did not.
So when you came across the vehicle that you wound up stopping, you had no information that that vehicle had been at Wright's Body Shop, correct?
That's correct.
Did the tip give any names of the individuals that were supposedly selling narcotics at Wright's Body Shop?
It did not.
Did you call TNT or whatever the Michigan State Police Narcotics Task Force is around here and pass on that tip?
I did not.
Have you ever responded to Wright's Body Shop and personally observed narcotics activity?
I have not.
Have you ever responded to Wright's Body Shop and executed a search warrant regarding narcotics activity?
I have not.
Have you ever pulled over anybody within the past 6 months and that person had narcotics and they told you they got narcotics from Wright's Body Shop?
I have not.
You pulled this car over and I think you said it indicated that you ran it in the file check and it came back electronic verification of insurance. No, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whether or not insurance companies are required to provide electronic verification of insurance to the Secretary of State?
I do not.
Okay. Have you ever pulled over a car based upon electronic verification of insurance code and the car was actually validly insured?
I have,
You agree with me that, as you said, when you pulled this car over, you had no reason to believe the car had been at Rice Body Shop.
other than there was no cars on the road and they were coming from the same road.
Well, I'm taking a seat out of my front here. Okay. How long does that road travel?
I can tell you the distance and how long that road is.
How many miles is it?
I can tell you how many miles it is.
Does it leave the city of Cadillac?
It does.
Does it leave the county of Westford?
No.
Okay, so there's great distance in which I could be on that road and be going in the opposite direction of Rice Body Shop.
I wouldn't call it a great distance.
There's some distance,
It's probably less than a few miles.
okay, less than a few miles. Would you, is it a back road or
It's a city street.
the traffic lights?
No, there's no traffic
It
lights.
has no traffic lights, okay. So now you pull this car over, and now the car is pulled over approximately 10, 15 minutes after you receive this tip.
Yes.
The driver of the car gets your driver's license.
Correct.
You're waiting for the insurance, correct?
Correct.
You ask the driver to step out of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Why?
There was 3 people in the vehicle and I wanted to talk to him one-on-one instead of 3 people being standing there while I was talking to him.
Why did you want to talk to them one-on-one about whether or not the car had insurance? Were you worried that they were going to collude their statements about whether or not the car had insurance?
Nope,
Why you have to step up to do that?
because it's within my purview to ask him to step out of the vehicle.
A lot of things are in your purview, but if it was a car full of
Asked and answered.
elderly, well, I'm moving on to a different question. Yeah. If it was a car full of elderly women, would you ask the driver to step up?
That's not this scenario.
What I'm asking.
It would depend on the exact circumstances of the scenario.
Isn't it true you wanted the driver to step out of the vehicle because he has to open the door, and that allows you to make plain view observations into the driver's side area of the vehicle?
No,
You have him then walk to the back of your, well, where do you have him go, the driver?
the front of my patrol vehicle.
In front of your patrol vehicle, and you talk to him?
Correct.
He tells you that he's taking his friend to Traverse City.
After he told me a different story. Correct.
Did you look into the floorboard, the seat, the cup holder area as the driver got out of the car?
I'm sure I did.
You didn't see any narcotics paraphernalia, did you?
I did.
You have the front seat passenger get out of the car?
Correct.
Why did you have her get out of the car?
For the same reasons.
And you haven't started writing any tickets yet, correct?
I have not. My partner is conducting a file check on both the front seat and rear seat passengers.
Why is your partner conducting file checks on the front seat and rear seat passengers?
They provided their IDs.
Have they been suspected of committing any civil infractions?
Nope.
Have they been suspected of committing criminal activity?
No,
So why are you running them?
they provided their IDs.
Well, they didn't volunteer, you asked. them,
We
Correct.
asked them.
Why did you ask them for their IDs if they had not done anything wrong?
That's what I do for every traffic stop.
When you asked the passenger out of the vehicle, did you look at the floorboard, the seat, in the area in her immediate reach?
I'm sure I did.
Did you observe any narcotics paraphernalia?
No,
She tells you they're taking the guy in the backseat to Traverse City.
Objection, that wasn't testified to.
I'm asking. It's a leading question.
Oh, the question.
She tells you that they're taking the guy in the backseat to Traverse City.
eventually, yes.
Then you have the guy in the backseat get out of the car as well.
Correct.
I assume you have him get out for the same reasons.
Correct.
You have not started writing this traffic ticket at all.
I have not.
When he gets out the vehicle, you make observations, the floorboard, the seat, the area within his immediate reach.
Correct.
You don't see any narcotics paraphernalia.
I do not.
None of these individuals appear to be high or under the influence to you.
No.
He eventually tells you he's going home to Traverse City.
Correct.
You then put him back in the car and ask the driver to step back out to re-interview him.
I believe he was out the whole time.
He was out the whole time.
Yes.
He denies you permission to search his vehicle.
Correct.
At this point, you have not even begun writing this traffic citation.
I have not.
How long have we been on the side of the road now?
The officer just admitted he called the drug dog and still had not written a single line of the ticket. In 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in Rodriguez versus United States that a traffic stop cannot extend beyond the time reasonably necessary to complete its original purpose. The court was explicit. The constitutional clock runs from the moment the stop is made, not from when the officer decides to start writing. Delaying the citation while conducting an unrelated drug investigation does not pause that clock. It violates it. Everything found in that car now depends on one question. Did the dog arrive in time or too late?
I couldn't tell you the exact time. I can't give you a ballpark.
15 minutes, when you can't even ballpark?
No.
After the driver denies consent to search, you radio in for a drug dog.
Correct.
And then you go to write the ticket.
Correct.
You tell me it takes you 10 minutes to write a ticket?
Correct.
Now, the ticket's got bigger since the last time I got one. It's one small sheet, right?
That's correct.
You write the name, address, city, state, and zip code, right?
Yep.
You check what misdemeanor or civil infraction.
Correct.
You write no proof of insurance. You sign it and put the date.
That's not everything you do, but yes.
It's 5 lines, right?
No,
How many lines is it?
I don't have the citation for me. I can tell you.
That takes you 10 minutes.
Correct.
And when the entire 10 minutes you're waiting, you still don't see any further gestures or anything from any of the individuals in the car.
No, that's filling out the citation.
And how long does it take for the narcotics dog to get there?
Less than 10 minutes.
No further questions, John.
How much time did this entire stop take
From when,
from begin to end?
to when we lodged them at jail.
From when you pull the car over and you leave the scene to transport to jail, how long does that take?
I don't recall how long exactly that's it.
Would your report indicate that?
I'm not sure if it has the time that we were cleared from it.
Do you know what time you were cleared from the jail?
I do not.
In your testimony, I wrote down that you believe some sort of criminal activity was going on.
That's correct. Your Honor.
What did you think was going on?
I suspected they were in possession of illegal narcotics.
Why did you suspect that?
Just their stories not matching in combination with the P3 tip and
P3 silent observer?
yes, Your Honor, Mr. Couples' anger or confrontationalness is common in my experience, from someone who is committing some sort of crime, trying to make me as the officer back off and kind of let them go without doing any further enforcement.
Do you encounter anger in other types of investigations?
Sure.
Let's do argument. Let's address the motion to suppress first, and then you can argue for the prelim. Ms. Carey?
I'm going to rely heavily on my written responses in the testimony in this case. This was not a prolonged detention, and I believe that Deputy Ramirez did have probable cause to search that vehicle. He received a tip that narcotics were being dealt and used at Wright's Auto on Leeson Avenue. He went to Leeson Avenue and saw the defendant's vehicle leaving. There were no other vehicles. He ran the plate, or his partner did. They came back with no insurance, so he conducted a stop. Inside the vehicle were 2 men and a female, which had been indicated in the silent observer tip. They questioned them, which they are allowed to do, as allowed to ask them out of the vehicle. They gave conflicting information, started Nixon drive, who conducted the canine tip. Based on the totality of the circumstances, searched the vehicle and found a lot of narcotics. I believe, based on the totality of the circumstances, there is probable cause, frankly, to find the matter over. I would ask the court deny both motions.
Mr. Hartel?
Yes, Your Honor. I would ask the court grant our motion. I do believe the stop was prolonged. I do believe the officer testimony, they didn't know the exact times, both the officers, but there was testimony that took quite a while. There was the fact that the stop, it's suspicious at a minimum, and I don't want to over conjecture at that, but they were following the vehicle before they knew about the no insurance. Then they pull them over. Then they go through all these other steps before they even start writing the tickets. And as far as the inconsistent stories, in my point number 6, where I cite 2 cases, United States versus Stepp and People v. Oliver, where the courts were consistent in those cases from 2012 and 2005, that inconsistent travel stories alone do not create reasonable suspicion. I ask the court to weigh that in. People can have inconsistent travel stories for various reasons. Maybe they're tired. This was barely after midnight. Maybe there's a bunch of variables at play. It's a relatively large stretch of road. People can be out there for various reasons. It boils down to the fact that all of the questions, for the most part, as far as separating people, all these details, the vast majority of the questions had nothing to do with the insurance. Search had nothing to do with the insurance. And the ticket didn't start getting wrote until significantly towards the tail end of this. But I do believe it'd be appropriate to grant this motion. Thank you.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say the stop was suspicious?
I do believe overall it was, Your Honor. I know that's not entirely point of this motion because we're talking about other variables, but I'm not trying to say the stop necessarily was illegal. They did have a valid reason to stop with no insurance. I realize plain sight doctrine says that you can stop for that reason. There's case law that supports that. But it does seem to me that the officers had already decided they were going to find a reason to pull this vehicle over and they were going to find a reason to search it. And the insurance seems to be even an afterthought. It was drug out as long as possible to justify the search.
Didn't Deputy Ramirez testify that the reason for the stop was the no insurance?
That was the reason that was stated, yes, Your Honor.
So, and I believe he also testified that they got that back before they made the stop. Got it back, there was no insurance, at least to the Secretary of State.
Yes, but they started following the vehicle before that for the reasons that were also stated on the record. Because they
Law
were saying-
enforcement, can they not do that?
I'm not saying they can't.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it seems from a defense perspective that this stop may have been prolonged for various reasons, but it doesn't change the fact that the information they had could have been the writing of the ticket right away. It could have been done a lot quicker. I do feel it was prolonged inappropriately.
You're not arguing that they didn't have a reason to stop the vehicle. You're arguing that the stop was prolonged. It went longer than was necessary to write a ticket for the no insurance case.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else?
Not on behalf of myself, at least.
All right, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. Do you mind if I go to the
No,
podium?
go ahead.
So y'all, I'm gonna take a kind of different approach to my co-counsel here. I think just by nature of the argument, all three parties agreed this stop was prolonged. The issue is, was the prolonged detention justifiable, right? The lead case on this is Illinois v. Wiley. In that case, if I pull you over and just so happens there's a drug dog in the area and the drug dog is being taken around the car while I'm simultaneously writing out the ticket for the traffic stop and the drug dog hits, that's not a prolonged detention. If the drug dog isn't there at the moment you pull the car over, then the detention is prolonged. So what we have to get to is whether or not they had adequate suspicion, either reasonable suspicion or probable cause to do so. Now, after the motions were filed, we find out in the people's response that there was this anonymous tip. It's not in the initial discovery. And the court
I
has to.
object to that because it's in the video. Deputy Ramirez makes a statement, and if they watch the video, they would hear him say it to Sergeant X.
In his police report, he does not put anything about the anonymous tip as a reason for a stop. That's why I questioned him on that. And the court should take that into consideration. If he believed that that anonymous tip gave him reasonable suspicion to stop the car, it would be in his report. But it does not, and it cannot. The anonymous tip has no specific detail as to how this individual knows there's narcotics activity going on at this Rice Body Shop. They don't say that they personally observed it, that they bought narcotics, that they used narcotics, that they saw anybody else use narcotics at that location. The anonymous tip doesn't even say what type of car these individuals left in, if they even left. So when we have this traffic stop, once the officers are going in the direction of the Rice Auto Body Shop, as acknowledged on cross-examination, they had no information that car was even at that body shop at the location of this anonymous tip. When you look at anonymous tips, we have Florida v. JL, which talks about the type of detail that needs to go into an anonymous tip in order for it to rise to the level of reasonable suspicion and probable cause. And this anonymous tip does not do that. So the officer pulls the car over for this traffic violation, and it's pretextual. They're using the traffic stop to investigate narcotics, right? So now this is just a run-of-the-mill case you see all the time. You got a traffic stop, but you want to investigate drugs because you think drugs have been going on at some other location. What does the officer not do? He asks them where they're going, but then asks them where they're coming from. If he'd asked the driver, anybody in the car, where you coming from, and they'd have said Rice Body Shop, I wouldn't even be. But he doesn't ask, they don't say that. What else does the officer not observe? He doesn't observe any indication that any of these individuals are intoxicated, are under the influence of narcotics, nor does he see any narcotics paraphernalia as he's talking to them. So at this point, he has a traffic stop for no proof of insurance and hasn't done anything under the law that allows him to prolong this stop to investigate narcotics. He gets these individuals out of the car, and again, he interviews, based on his testimony, each individual for several minutes, driver being twice. They don't make any observations, again, of any narcotics activity when they're right there on the scene. Although I agree with co-counsel on his recitation of the law on inconsistent statements, I believe the statements are inconsistent. They are all consistent on the most important fact. Where you going? You're taking Mr. Couples back to Traverse City. What's suspicious about that? They're on a roll, that would lead them back to Traverse City, right? So it's not like they saying they're on the way to Traverse City, but they headed towards wherever, So he's got a story. They're going in the direction of that story, but now he's continuing to prolong the detention. The drug dog isn't even called yet until after this second interview of the driver. So now the court has to say, has Officer Ramirez or his partner gotten any information to elevate the suspicion of the traffic stop. If the court agrees with me that the unanimous tip did not rise to the level of probable cause and did not rise to the level of reasonable suspicion to believe criminal activity was afoot to pull the car over, then the court has to now look at, during the valid purposes of the traffic stop, did the officer ascertain any information that would elevate the level of suspicion for narcotics activity? The answer is no. And now we have a denial to search the car. That can't be used in the assertion of constitutional right, can't be used to elevate the suspicion. So now we're calling the drug dogs out, and for what? What did he see, hear, smell, or notice that lead him to believe that there was narcotics in that car? Because at this point, I think the detention is way past the Terry stop. It's not doing anything to fill out the ticket for the no insurance. So it's our argument that he would need probable cause at this point to continue this detention. And there's clearly nothing has occurred to rise to the level of probable cause. Now the drug dog is called out. We have another at least 10 minutes, for the drug dog to get there. And the drug dog is now searching for what? What information the officer had to believe that narcotics was in that car. There could have been narcotics activity at Wright's auto body shop, and all the narcotics could have been left at Wright's auto body shop while they went to Traverse City. There's no search warrant issue with Wright's body shop, right? But they would need some level of suspicion, whether reasonable suspicion or probable cause. And at this point, because of the mental detention, I think we have probable cause to believe there was narcotics in that vehicle. They didn't have it. That's why he asked to search the vehicle. That's why they asked to have a drug dog come to get the probable cause to search the car. And of course, once the drug dog hits, there's probable cause to search the car. So now the court has to say between at what point should the officer just say, you know what, it may be there, I can't get to it, I gotta write this ticket. It surely should have occurred after all three people said, we take couples back to Traverse City, re-interviewing the driver, ran us in for what? Ask to search the vehicle at that point for what? And so now it just becomes a comfort thing, right? We only here because they found drugs, right? We wouldn't be here if they didn't find drugs, but that's the purpose of the Fourth Amendment. The people that founded this country, they were insurrectionists, they were spies, they were treasonous. They wanted to have a mechanism in which people could commit crimes and be protected from the government. We don't like to say that, but that's the point of the Fourth Amendment, to have some sort of protection, from governmental interference. So people, law-abiding citizens don't need it, right? Law-abiding citizens don't need the Fourth Amendment. Right? It's only criminals that need the Fourth Amendment. And the framers of this country, both state and federal, have given them that protection. And I think the court should apply that protection here and exclude the evidence found as search of the car. Does the court have any questions of me?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carey, any rebuttal?
The stop was initiated at 12:06. Sergeant Hicks was likely called at 12:18. Deputy Ramirez indicated he spent 2 or 3 minutes talking with each person, which he was completely within his rights to do. He didn't prolong that. He immediately, before starting writing his ticket, got in touch with Sergeant Hicks within 12 minutes after he talked to everybody and got some very stories on where they were going and how long they had known each other. And eventually, yes, they all agreed they were going to Traverse City, but it's not where it started. And there were definite discrepancies in what they said and how long they had known each other. And as he was writing the ticket, Sergeant Hicks arrived. So if Sergeant Hicks was called at 12:18, he got there, he testified in less than 10 minutes. He had to travel 3 or 4 miles with relatively no traffic and no traffic lights. It didn't take him very long. We know Cadillac well enough to know that. And then he searched the vehicle in less than 5 minutes with the dog before it indicated. This was not a prolonged stop based on the totality of the circumstances, given the tip, which again, Deputy Ramirez did not put it in his report, but he did mention it in the video that was provided to defense, that they had received a tip. So based on the totality of the circumstances, the minimal traffic that time of night, seeing the car leaving the area, checking it, if the car had insurance, that would have been that, but it didn't. So they stopped it, and it didn't have insurance. And initially, Mr. Pruitt only handed over his license while the passenger was looking for the insurance. Eventually, the insurance was handed over and they were able to check it and it was expired. But all that takes time, and it didn't take a lot of time. So I asked the court to, again, deny both motions and find the matter over.
Thank you. Well, case law tells us that when a court is asked to determine whether or not the length of the stop is prolonged, we don't look at the totality of how long the stop takes. We look at how long it is prolonged from the officer determining, maybe not when the officer determines, but from when the traffic stop should have ended. We've heard a lot about the tip today. While that wasn't admitted as evidence, it was testified to that there was no names given, no indication as to how they knew that drugs were being sold or transacted, no description of the vehicle. Essentially, the only thing that we have that would tie this stop to that tip is that there were 2 males in the car and 1 female, and that the female was a girlfriend. And then that was borne out in the testimony that was developed after the stop. Tip came in at approximately 11:51 p.m. The stop was made at approximately 12:06 a.m. That's 15 minutes between the tip being received and the stop having occurred. Now, the court will take judicial notice, because I am familiar with that area, that Wright's Custom Body Shop is about a quarter mile on Leeson Avenue from 13th Street. And then, as was borne out in the testimony by the deputy, about another 1.5 miles between Leeson Avenue and 37 Road. The court will also take judicial notice that 37 Road is a road that a lot of people take to go up to Traverse City, up through Minnetonka, Summit City, and the back way into Traverse City. And with a car that is not legally able to be driven because of no insurance, it's not out of the realm that the vehicle would have been traveling back roads to avoid, even though this was late at night, to avoid the possibility of being stopped on 115, which would be another way to get up to Traverse City, and where this stop had occurred would only be about 1 mile from 115. So whether or not they were going to take 115 or go up through the back way, it is at least plausible to the court that the vehicle could have been on its way to Traverse City. Doing some math, we've got approximately 15 minutes between the time that the stop occurs until after the tip comes in. Now, what we don't know is exactly how long or where the deputies were and had to travel to get to Leeson Avenue, or how much time elapses between receiving the tip and encountering the vehicle. That's unknown to the court. Presumably, it would only take cars traveling at a normal rate of speed just a couple of minutes to get from Leeson Avenue to where the stop had occurred. Then we have the stop. And while there is case law that says that conflicting stories might rise some suspicion that crime is afoot, that's not the only thing that the court would need to consider. And it has to be a substantive issue to rise to that level. And the officer has to be able to articulate an articulable suspicion, reasonable articulable suspicion, that crime is afoot. Ms. Carey cites People versus Williams in her response to at least one of the motions, and I think it was in both, which is cited at 472 Mich 308. The court finds that that case is distinguishable from this one, because the inconsistent statement, or the statement in that one case that doesn't make sense, is because that statement made law enforcement was factually just completely inaccurate and couldn't have happened. In that case, the occupants of the vehicle had indicated they were going to, I believe it was Sheboygan, they were going to stay at the Holiday Inn. There was no Holiday Inn in that town. They were going to be there for 3 days, but yet there was no luggage in the car. That rose to that level. While it might raise a suspicion, I don't think it's to a suspicion that crime is afoot, is that they disagree on how long they've known each other, or where they might be going or are going to. But when I take where eventually they land on, they're going to Traverse City to drop Mr. Couples off, and they're on a path that could take them to Traverse City, I don't think gets us there. And then when we have the officer testifying that Mr. Couples was argumentative, I asked whether or not that's necessarily uncommon. He agreed that that was not necessarily an uncommon thing that happens. Then we get to the calling of the drug dog. We know the drug dog is called in at 12:18 based on the testimony today. It takes approximately 10 minutes from Sergeant Hicks' testimony to get to where the stop had occurred. But before that, and telling to the court, is Deputy Ramirez began writing the citation at the time that he called the drug dog. That's the indication to the court that he determined at that time he only had sufficient evidence to write a no proof of it, or no insurance ticket. And from that point forward, any amount of time it took to prolong the stop outside of the time necessary to allow the ticket to be written. As such, I find that the waiting for the drug dog to be called to the scene unlawfully prolonged the stop, and therefore any hit that drug dog made and any evidence as a result of that is suppressed. The search of the vehicle is hereby suppressed and any evidence coming out of that. Sometimes there just isn't probable cause. Had the drug dog been called at the time that the stop had actually been made, we might be a different story. But where the drug dog's called at the same time that the ticket is began to be written, we know that the file checks were all done because there was only one computer in the car. There was no reason to prolong the stop longer than necessary to finish writing the citation. With the suppression of the evidence, I find no probable cause to find the case over. The case is dismissed without prejudice.
What most people don't realize is that the exclusionary rule was never designed to protect guilty people. It was designed to control police behavior. The Supreme Court made that explicit in Mapp versus Ohio back in 1961. The logic is simple. If illegally obtained evidence can still be used, officers have no incentive to follow the Constitution.